our body runs on food. It's not like I wake up and I go on the treadmill for 2 hours to charge myself up for the day. Our body runs on food and it needs food.
Hey, Linz.
Hey guys.
What's up, Logan?
All right. Well, quarantining.
Yeah,
So as exciting as that can be, found a lot of
I
things to
mean,
clean.
I know. At least it gives us time to hang out and talk to people, you know?
I know. You see how you
So
look on a phone too, more.
I glow on the phone. I look good.
I like it. I do think you look good. I think you look great.
I make sure the lighting in this office is perfect for these situations.
I go for the dark
So
and ominous look.
I like it. I like it. So yeah, we'll probably wait another minute or so. We'll let some more people hop on here before we get going. While
Sounds
we're waiting though, I guess we could just get talking a little bit about just life in general. You know, how's your routine been? How's exercise been? How's fitness been without having your normal structure these last few weeks?
the first 2 weeks were definitely the hardest. I felt like I was gonna lose my mind. But then honestly, once there was the virtual classes, that made a huge difference for me because one, I felt like I was connected with the real world. So that was already exciting. But that kind of already helped me build my own schedule. So I kind of knew, okay, workouts at 2:30, that was already a starting point. I was able to revolve my day around at least a little bit. So I felt kind of more structured. So that really helped. Having all the workouts you guys planned was really helpful. So honestly, as long as I get to work out, it's a stress reliever for me. So it makes quarantine much, much more manageable because I feel like I'm still being productive and it's fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
then I
think
also, I
it's all
also,
about your schedule. That's what Katie said.
yeah. And I also fostered a dog. So that's
Wow.
been keeping us busy. That's been fun. He'll probably jump in on here. You'll see him at some point as we go along. He's looking at the window right now, so he won't come over. But
What's his name?
Zippy,
Zippy.
yeah. I think it's more of an adjective than a name, but that's what the name he came with. But he's cute. So
How
he's
old is
keeping,
he?
he's 2. And he is an AM staff, but he is such a sweet boy. I'm still teetering whether I'm going to foster him, whether I'm going to adopt him.
Uh,
So we'll see. Each day it's more towards adoption.
listen, I don't know how you can foster a dog and then not adopt them.
Yeah. Well, it's
That
all
would kill
about
me.
if my landlord says yes. So I might just, I don't know. We'll
Oh
see how
yeah,
it
well
goes.
that's like a whole nother battle.
Yeah. But so all
So
of it's going good. So, I mean, that's kind of going. My schedule routine, I mean, now that I have him too, that's helpful because it's kind of like I get to wake up, I take him out, and then I do some work, and then I get to do a workout, and then I see my clients, and then I start dinner. So, I mean, routine, having a schedule really ends up being a make or break, I think, for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time getting a schedule and getting a routine. And I mean, we have to admit this whole quarantine is just weird. It's super weird. No one's prepared for it. Why would we be prepared for it? So it's really trying to make sense of all of it and feeling like life is still life and that there's a purpose for everything and that, you know, we still can be doing productive things. It's not like everything is on hold because at the end of the day, what happens is we kind of think that, you know, things are on pause and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, all of the good habits that we've built start kind of deteriorating and we start growing these bad habits. And before you know it, I mean, it's what, the beginning of week 6?
yeah,
That's enough time to build a bad habit and it's enough time to ruin a good habit. So it's kind of having some reality check with yourself and self-checking to know where you're at and working on trying to keep yourself somewhat stable in maintenance of what we're working on, even if it's not everything. You can't do everything, but the little things, like little goals, making sure that you get to do some exercise every once in a while. If it's not every day, obviously, if it's at least some days of the week, even if it's just getting to walk outside on a nice day, just to get out, just to do something different. And stagger some things that you need to do. So each day there's some sort of event planned. And then I also like the idea of having set times with friends that I call or family that I call. So it's kind of like, oh, it's Sunday in the afternoon. This is when I have a call with my family. And it kind of brings you back into feeling like real life for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how this social distancing is, it's forced upon us, but it's made us value that time so much more and realize like, wow, like you take that for granted when you're just going with the flow of regular life. And, you take for granted talking to your parents every day. And then when you don't necessarily get to see them, like I haven't seen my parents in 6 weeks, so it really makes you value, like, I got to call my mom today. Like I'm not going to forget to call my mom today or whatever it may be, so, and even with connecting with old friends, I know, it's been, with all this time on your own, you have a lot of thoughts going through your mind, but it's a great opportunity to set times where you could challenge yourself and be like, I'm going to reach out to one old friend a day that I haven't talked to in years. And those conversations have been the best because, it's like, I can't believe I haven't reached out to this person sooner. I'm almost sorry that it took being forced into quarantine to have to reach out to people that meant so much to you at certain times during your life, but, but anyways, agree. It's cool. It's nice. That's the silver lining in all of this, if you can find any,
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's been a silver lining. And another one is I've really been trying to make an effort of thinking back of the things that I always said, if I had the time, I would love to do that. And like, I just never have the time. So anything that I've said something like that, I'm really making an effort to go out of my way to complete or accomplish. And that's also kind of exciting too, because it's the one benefit of this time is we now have time that everyone complains that they never have. And now we finally do have that time just for those things and for family that we do live with. So it's about finding the positive aspect in this is the only way to kind of keep you going, because what else are you going to do? There's two ways to look at it. Might as well be positive.
Yeah. I personally, I talk to a lot of different individuals every day. Some days I have upwards of 12 to 15 little video chats with athletes, and it's the same theme out of all of them. It's like, I have all this time, but for the first 18 years of my life, I was told what to do, when to do it, where to go, how to do it. I was doing it wrong, go here, go there. And it's like, now that, during those times, you wish like, oh man, I wish I just had an extra hour a day so I could do what I want to do. Right. And now it's like, you have 24 hours a day to do what you want to do, and it's freezing everyone, and no one knows what to do because there's so much time, so it's amazing. Like you think like, oh yeah, you're a registered dietitian, that's your expertise, but in this time it's almost as if your time is more valued in helping people just create structure for themselves, and then it's like, then your expertise can make an impact for everyone that we help. It's like, for us, exercise is irrelevant if I can't help someone create routine to even create time to exercise every day. Exactly. There's no point in pushing exercise and fitness and nutrition and all this stuff. And it's like, but they can't even get themselves to get into a daily routine of showering and getting out of their pajamas by 12 o'clock. So how can I expect them to work out regularly? So right. It's like, it's very interesting how all of this has brought about new challenges and ways that we can provide, value and insight for people. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So we definitely wanted to talk about routine. I guess we can come back to that. I'm sure some people will have some questions, and when you guys are on here, feel free to ask questions in the chat below. We'll get to those as we get through, but just to get the conversation rolling, we definitely wanted to touch on something and hear from Lindsay on, just the, it's a known fact that obesity and high blood pressure and diabetes, and there's risk factors involved that help, I guess, coronavirus just be that much more detrimental to people, So in terms of nutrition and wellness, there's articles that you can find on the internet now that are supporting exercise and fitness and wellness as a means of almost bulletproofing yourself a little bit better against corona. So I guess just share a little bit of insight on some strategies for people who maybe they don't have severe high blood pressure, but they're right there. Or maybe, they're in and out of high cholesterol their whole life. And it's like, what are some ways that there's just very easy habits that they can implement for themselves to bulletproof themselves? Because this corona thing isn't going away. It's gonna linger for the next year, for the next 2 years from what they're telling us, So, it's time for us to start accepting that and implementing things that are going to help us.
Yeah. So there's definitely some core things that I think are really helpful. And I really hope that what happens with this whole corona virus pandemic that's going on is there's been so many things about people buzzing about weight loss, how they want to look. And people kind of forget the health aspect that is so truly important. And now more than ever, health really is the most important thing, because we might get it, we might not get it. So it's how well can we battle it if we do get the coronavirus. So for anyone who is diabetic, overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or even just a healthy individual, just to stay that way, I would say the 3 core tips is water, vegetables, and having protein with every meal. Now, if anyone's ever met with me and had a session with me, they all know I'm really, really annoying with water, but for good reason. So to just say why water is so important is we don't have somewhere where we store water. We're like 70-something% water, but every single day is as important as the last. Like, I can't drink 5 gallons of water and be good all week. Every single day matters. And that is, especially for those who have high blood pressure, I cannot stress this enough. The water is going to go into your bloodstream. So if anyone ever gets blood taken, don't they make sure you stay hydrated before you leave, because that will replenish into more blood volume. So if you have less blood volume, your blood gets thicker and thicker. And now your heart is really struggling to pump this thick molasses consistency blood through your system as quickly as it would if it was more of a water consistency. So drinking water is super important. Now, the amount of how much water, it's really supposed to be half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 100 ounces of water. Now, a lot of people ask me, does seltzer count? Yes. Does coffee count? No. Does alcohol count?
Damn.
No. As
Espresso?
enjoyable as they are, you're more than welcome to have them. I probably encourage you to have some more alcohol just to get through the quarantine. However, it is going to act as a diuretic. So what that means is it's going to remove fluids. So if you have 20 ounces of water and 20 ounces of coffee, you're at 0. So if someone's a huge coffee drinker and they're like, I'm never going to get rid of coffee, that's fine. You just now need to add more water on top of that. But
Jeez.
And everyone's going to complain that you have to go to the bathroom so much. Well, luckily it's 5 steps away. I apologize for the toilet paper you're going to need to use for this. So it is what it is, but that's just how much water we're always going to need to drink. So that's super helpful there. It's also really impactful for helping our immune system. So not only is it for our blood, but it hydrates our organs. And also even just for exercise, just to help with a lot of muscle fatigue. If we don't have the hydrated muscles or hydrated organs, like they turn into raisins. And then that's what makes us get so sore so quickly or just for so much longer. So for multiple reasons across the board, please drink water. The next is vegetables. Another one, no one's eating enough veggies. It is so important. It's so impactful. I know that there's almost no calories to it, just like water, but it doesn't matter. There's so many vitamins and minerals in vegetables. And what they do is, all right, if someone's going to have steak and potatoes, great, you have a good base. But what the vegetables do is they have all of those nitty gritty vitamins and minerals that have very specific roles for everything, for eyesight, for muscle repair, for brain function, all these good things. So you get to utilize your food much better. So you are a more healthy human being. And then also it's really helpful for lowering cholesterol. Vegetables and like the fiber of that is really helpful for lowering your cholesterol and also is filling. And that's the one big part in people's plate that they don't always have. And that accidentally ends up having them overeat something that they really didn't necessarily need if they had that proper filler. Now, I'm not saying eat only vegetables and just be full and avoid the food. We need everything. It's just having a proper balance. So I would say a third to half your plate in veggies, if you can, for lunch and dinner. And then the last one is protein with every meal. Now, this really goes out to my diabetic clients, but really it's helpful for everyone. So having protein with your breakfast, with your lunch, with your dinner, it pairs with your carbs that it slowly releases and doesn't give you a spike in blood sugars. So it keeps your blood sugars leveled and stable and keeps you full, especially for those who might find themselves walking into the kitchen grazing now that we're home all the time. It keeps you full and satisfied. Yeah. So that goes across the board. There's no real different way of eating for someone who has diabetes versus does not. It's just if we have diabetes, we just don't have the luxury to get away with things. Just like when you're 17, you eat whatever you want, but when you're 57, you don't get away with it. It wasn't good to do it at 17. You just got away with it, and now it's impactful. So same thing there, protein with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all three of those. So again, water, half your body weight in ounces of water. Veggies, a third to half of your plate for lunch and dinner if you can. And 3, protein with every meal. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but those would be the 3 tips that I think everyone should really be able to incorporate to build better habits, to feel like you are on a right track, especially during quarantine. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but those are 3 huge things that I think fundamentally make a big, big difference in health.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know all 3 of those things have been hammered home by your mom since you were a little kid, and it's like just hearing the explanation and the why behind it, though, brings it to life. And it's like, all right, now I know why I'm going to eat, or my wife, Danielle, makes me eat a veggie with every meal. It's like, I know that they're good for me, and I know that I was supposed to eat them. But when you bring to life what it's actually doing inside of you, and that it's serving a purpose as a particular type of fuel or whatever it is, it goes a long way. And I know that's one thing that you're awesome with when you meet with your clients, is just explaining to them the why. It's not just like, hey, here's your diet plan, go follow it and kill it for 8 weeks and then that's it. It's like, no, I want to educate you. I want you to learn. And I feel like going through this conversation right now, I feel the same way about everyone that we train. It's like, for me, if someone leaves our family and our facility and we've developed them in such a way where they go off and they flourish and they're smarter than me, that's like my dream, because that means we did something right. It's like, I tell this to Tommy and Joey all the time, or when it's like, guys, I can only hope that I at least give you tools that set you up to go be better than I was when I was your age. And if I don't, then I didn't do my job. So it's like we're the experts, but it's not like we want to always stay above everybody else. It's we want to share the knowledge so everyone could be able to utilize the stuff that we know. Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I think one question I have for you, and I think it would be helpful for us because you are the expert, is just, sharing a little insight onto, it could be nutrition, exercise, whatever it is, but just share like one good habit and one bad habit that you've been able to put into place for yourself over the past 5 weeks.
Okay. One good habit that I have done is I have organized my client schedule around to make sure that I include exercise at least 4 days a week, because I do know how impactful that is for me in so many different areas. It affects, if I don't work out, it affects my appetite. And then it's not as enjoyable to want to eat my meals if I'm not as hungry. It's huge for a stress reliever. And especially now more than ever, I could really use that. It's also fun. I'm limited on my hobbies of what I can do while I'm in here. And that's one of them. So that I get to add into, and it helps build structure in my day. So that's definitely one good habit that I've been working on for a while, even prior to quarantine. So it's nice that I'm able to really kind of dedicate that time.
Mm-hmm.
One bad habit for sure is nighttime. I am not going to bed as early as I should because time doesn't matter in its own way. The good thing is I don't need to have an alarm. So at least when I'm still getting my 8 hours that I do need, but going to bed at a reasonable time, no, that has not really happened.
Yeah.
Tiger King got into my life and other random shows, and I just find myself staying up.
And they keep releasing new episodes.
I know. It's like, well, I'm not going to start my bedtime now.
They're just slowly releasing you to drag you along now at this point. Yeah, I know. One thing too, quite a few people have mentioned the nighttime and struggling with falling asleep at night. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's all exercise, but I know for myself, prior to the quarantine, you know, I have an Apple Watch that tracks my steps, and if I didn't exceed, let's say 10,000 on a day, that's a low day for me. And now I won't even put the watch on because I'm not anywhere near that. So just knowing activity level alone plays a huge role, because for the past however many years, my body is used to going and putting out at whatever speed. And then all of a sudden you bring it back. Now my body's sitting around like, whoa, buddy, you've only put out a sixth of what you've been doing for the past however many years, you know? So it's like exercise for me now too. It's not just about a hobby. It's like, nah, I got to run myself down. Like, just like your dog, like you gotta bring the dog out and then let it run, or else that dude's going to be going wild if you don't let his energy out. So, you know, just any activity, not even exercise. Like I know when we had TJ on here on Sunday, he mentioned part of his routine is going for a walk every morning, which is huge. And just adding in a 30-minute walk every morning and then going about your day and then exercising, like, you know, that will go a long way for people, and not having to worry about like starting a new fitness routine or getting involved in anything. Just go outside, get fresh air.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's awesome. I know, let me scroll back up here. Someone had asked a question about intermittent fasting, and if that could help with what we were talking about. So Melissa asked, does intermittent fasting help? I've been trying it and working out for 40 minutes every day, but haven't seen significant results.
I'm assuming helpful for weight loss. Is that more what I guess the question would be around? So intermittent fasting is really not my go-to. If you're doing keto, then yes, that would be fine. Otherwise, your body needs food, and it needs food throughout the day. I find that I had a lot of clients that would come to me who were struggling with weight loss, and by default, they were doing intermittent fasting without even realizing it, just out of habits. And what's really more helpful is eating throughout the day. It doesn't have to be 5 small meals. It's just eating more frequently. And kind of one of the things I explain is how you need everything in your closet, but you can't utilize it all in two times, because there's too many things in there. Just like there's so much food that we need, and you can only absorb so much in one sitting. And what also happens when we do intermittent fasting is we're limiting the window to get all the nutrients that we need. So you better be really on point of what those foods are, because there is a bunch of nutrients that we need throughout the day. But I would say having typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you go longer than 4 hours in between, throw a snack in. And then you do the concept that I said about the plate before with the vegetables, which is more important, and then also with the water. So exercise that you're doing 40 minutes is great. But I think what's going to speed your metabolism up will be eating more frequently. The other way I explain it, and I think money's really going to help people out with now, is the more often you get paid, the more you want to spend it. And the less you get paid, the more you're kind of worried, when am I going to get paid again? I really don't want to spend money. I'd rather save it and hoard onto it. So when your body feels like it's being paid more often and more frequently and more consistently, it feels safe. And it wants to burn it. It wants to use it for things. Otherwise, it's going to hold on to it because it's not sure when it's going to get paid again. So it's all about having your body feel very safe to use that food for brain function and eyesight and skin, hair, and nails. It wants to use it for all those specific things rather than hoarding it for the bare minimum of I need the heart to pump, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the money analogy is, I never heard that one before. And just thinking back to cutting weight in wrestling, it's like, if I heard that then, I would have hit home a little bit more. I mean, that's something that we were always told was, if you deplete yourself, your body's just waiting for the next thing and it's just going to hold on to it. But now, being in the real world, the money analogy definitely hits home and brings that to life more. It's like, if especially in this time, a lot of people are struggling financially, and we're less likely to expend money or expend energy in the conversation of food. And it's like, that makes so much sense now. Like, if it's just consistent and regular, it's okay. I know my routine. I know it's coming in and going out, and there's an ebb and flow of it. But if it's in and it's out, and I don't know when it's coming back, my body's probably just waiting to hoard something the next time I put it in. So that's a really cool analogy. Emmy asks, how can I create a motivated workout environment in the comfort of my home?
Ooh, that's tough. That might be a better answer for you, to be honest.
That's my weakness. Well, I think I'm not sure if she was on yet, but you shared a little bit about how the virtual classes played a huge role for you. I know not everyone may have access to that type of situation, but creating structure or ways to motivate yourself. So I know Lindsay mentioned something earlier just about how she is a member at Motives, and for her, she needs the virtual live class to stay motivated. And as she was saying, she's now structured her daily client schedule around that time, because it's like, no, this is my time. This is my 1 hour time. And for you, it might not be a live class necessarily. Maybe you're on your own or whatnot. But I know one thing I've been coaching a lot of people on in these past few weeks, whether they're college athletes or adults, is everyone has, I'd say, 3 things in their day that are highest priority. And for a student athlete, right now it's school. So when you wake up every day, you have to do your school. There's nothing else in the world going on. You have to do your school because you have to pass this semester. So when you wake up, like, that's the number one thing that goes on your calendar first. Now, after school, if you're a student athlete, it's going to be your sport. So, where now school, whatever time that is dictating where your exercise or sport practice is going to lie. And then from there, you kind of let everything else fall into place. If you're not a student athlete, it's work. So if your work schedule every day, create blocks for yourself during the week and block out, like, okay, I'm waking up and from 8 to 3, I know I have work. So I'm not even going to stress about the fact that I haven't worked out yet, because I know I'm working every day from 8 to 3. And I also know that at 3 o'clock, I usually like to sit down on the couch for 30 minutes. So, I'm going to create that buffer for myself and give myself the opportunity to procrastinate. And then I'm going to put exercise in at 3:30, but create your structure and your calendar in a way where you don't set yourself up for failure. Make it realistic, create buffers for yourself. I would suggest not, if you have work block from 8 to 3, don't put exercise at 3:05. That's not really realistic, because we have another 10 hours in your day left. There's no need to jump at that unless you have another obligation. But my encouragement would be to create structure for yourself and create a situation where you're going to succeed every day. And then one successful day on top of 2, on top of 3, on top of 7, on top of 14. And now you're talking about feeling really good about your routine. And the same thing goes for nutrition and diet as well. It's like, you can't think about a 30-day diet. I got to start right now, tonight. I can't go eat Oreos tonight while I watch Aladdin with my wife like I did yesterday. But, it's like, you got to do one decision, one day, one little opportunity at a time. I don't know if you want to add anything into that.
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. And then it was more so also like with me, even just the room itself was really difficult. Like at a point where if I was in my room, it was just so damn hot in there that I was not enjoying it. But then if I was in a room that I have now where there's windows, that's been way better just for a breeze to get a break. But the virtual classes were really helpful. And one day I even just did a YouTube video, but because someone else was telling me what to do, there was no time to think. I had to just suck it up and just do it. And then it was over. I'm like, oh, I did it already. That was done. So having somebody else push me has helped, because when you get in your own head, it's easy to be like, I'm just going to break a little longer. And, oh, let me check my phone. And, oh, actually, I'm hungry. I want to do something else.
Yeah.
So it keeps you structured. But again, everything what you said.
Yeah. And that's actually a good point. My brain wasn't even tracking with that. But for me too, I can't, sometimes it's so cold and I don't want to go in the garage and work out. Like I have the luxury of working out in the garage, and I'm like, I'll just work out in the living room or whatever. It's not the same when you're in the living room all day and then you're going to walk 2 steps to the left. It's very hard to get motivated. So, finding a way to change up the scenery or change it up. Maybe it's music, maybe it's facing, like if you're looking one way all day at this wall with this TV, it's like set yourself up where you don't have to look at that. Like look the other way, like put a picture on the wall or something. It's like change the scenery. I every week, I like on Sunday, I look at the whole week and I know what days I'm going to work out outside before they even go down, because I want to get outside as much as possible. So that's another good thing too, is just, plan for those days as much as you can. Katie says, since we're home and overall less active, how much less should we be eating?
Really good question. A lot of my clients are having that same problem, that they're assuming, well, I'm not really moving, I'm not really doing anything. Should I just kind of skip eating and skipping meals? And what I cannot stress enough is our body runs on food. It's not like I wake up and I go on the treadmill for 2 hours to charge myself up for the day. Our body runs on food and it needs food. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people put a lot of weight, for the lack of a better word, on exercise being for a lot of calories. And it gives you some extra, but majority of the day is still there. So just because we're not moving around as much, and I mean, it is much different if you have a very, very physically active job. But if you don't, and you're just getting in your car, going to work pretty much at your desk and doing some minuscule walking around, it is different in terms of the steps, like you said, Mike, but in terms of expenditure of energy, don't cut your day in half is basically what I'm saying. Still have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner and your snacks, because it's really same, the frequency. So you don't want to skip a whole meal, because now look how much longer we're going by not getting paid. So the only difference really would be, how much do you put on your plate? If you're not as hungry, you have less. But you really want to honor your hunger cues. Some people end up losing them, especially if we're really stressed. That could either heighten our hunger cues or lower them. So having kind of a base set point of what we should normally have and kind of just following that. Like if all of a sudden your appetite is down to nothing, you know that beforehand you used to plate your food X amount on your plate every night. So the goal is to try to keep that the same, but it could be a little bit less if we're not as active, but the meals are there, the snacks are there, the water's there. There's only so much calories that you're getting from going to work or staying home, but majority of the food is all for our organs. Our heart, our lungs, our brain, everything is still working 24/7. And it doesn't work on magic. It works on food. So we really cannot forget how important food is. I know everything out there is all about tricks to avoid food, tricks to be able to not be hungry all day, tricks to get away with only eating this much and doing this instead. And it's losing sight of the fact that we do need food. The goal is not to find ways to avoid it. It's just, how do we balance it out? And that's what the harder thing is, because there's more thinking involved, and people like quick, easy, this is 2 things I can do, I follow it, but that's just not real life. That's just not how our body works. And even if we feel like, oh, I'm getting away with it, I mean, things are fine, internally it's not. And that comes all back to the health aspect that I said in the beginning of, we have to remember why we need the food, why it's important, and how it affects us in our health perspective. This is a long-term game, not a sprint. So it's really about, how do you value the food and use it for our body long-term? They all have a very specific purpose, which I end up knowing more than other people because that's my field. But I'm telling you, there is a reason for all of these foods. They all do something important. So please don't think that you shouldn't be eating because we're not moving as much. That's, can't bring it home enough. Just please eat, enjoy
Yeah.
it.
I heard you mention the term hunger cues. I've never heard of that term
So
before. I guess, can you just elaborate on that a little bit more? And
yeah, so it's really that feeling that you're hungry. So it's like our natural body's like alarm clock to let us know that ping in our stomach, like, oh, I'm hungry. It's like, oh, that means I should go get food. Because if we weren't told we were hungry, we would never eat and we would all die. So our body naturally does that. So same thing as when you put your hand on a stove and it's really hot, you feel pain to make you move your hand away. Otherwise, you'll burn your hand off. Just like, oh, I need to go get food. So, but unfortunately, we can kind of lose those where someone gets in the habit where they can just get away with not eating breakfast and they don't eat till lunch. Like, I don't know, I'm just not hungry. Well, somebody else is like, I could never go that long. I'm so hungry.
that's
So
me.
sometimes you lose them because if we ignore them, eventually they go away because your body is assuming that there's just no food around, that you're not going to get paid. There's no money around. So it's like, this is a wasteful effort to tell them that they're hungry to go get food if I'm already understanding there's no food around. But so getting in a habit and a routine, you will start getting those hunger cues back, meaning you will start feeling hungry. You will start feeling hungry throughout the day when you're supposed to, and you'll be full for the length of time that you're supposed to. So if you don't use it, you lose it, but you can always gain them back. But it all just comes with practice. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. I think just it made me think of something else, and you could speak on this more, but sometimes you hear a lot of people talk on that concept of hunger cues and feeling like you're hungry, but in reality, you're just thirsty. And
Yeah.
I know from, I drink a lot of water, and for me, I don't get those sensations of like, I gotta eat. I eat because I know that it's fueling me and I have to eat. And, I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that I am adequately hydrated on average. So I don't necessarily feel that desire. Does that always hold true? Is that a fallacy?
You're kind of right. You're kind of there. So in terms of like sometimes when we're hungry, we're really thirsty, that goes back to if you don't use it, you lose it. So the way I always explain it to people is, when your body's thirsty, it's going to ask you for water. And then if you just keep ignoring it, eventually it's not going to bother wasting its time telling you. Like it's getting the hint. It's like, all right, there's clearly no lake around. We're in a drought. There's no lake. So why am I going to waste my energy in telling this person to drink water when it's not there? So what happens is your body's like, well, shoot, I still need water from somewhere. Technically it's in food. I'll have them go to the food. So now sometimes people get false hunger cues. So when you hear like, oh, you want to make sure to drink water before a meal to help fill you up, that's a stretch. That's how they get away with saying it because they're assuming you're dehydrated. So, but once you start drinking water, like I'm hungry right now, so this isn't going to fill me up. I don't care how much of that I drink. But once you start drinking more water, eventually your body's like, oh my God, there's a lake. Now, if I tell her she's thirsty, she'll go there and she'll drink it. And then eventually you get your thirst cues. Now for you, for saying that you don't really always get your hunger cues, you just eat because you should. That brings up a good point because sometimes everyone's signals from their body could be different. Some people might not really ever feel hungry, but they keep getting headaches or they feel lightheaded or dizzy or some other sort of symptom that your body is just acknowledging that you're not noticing the normal signal. So it goes to a different signal to have you kind of like check in and like make sense. Like it wants you to feel uncomfortable in some way. So that way you understand something's off, something's wrong, you need to fix it. But then there might just be some people where it just might not be appetizing for you. But if you went too long without eating, maybe you're like, oh, wow, I don't really feel that great.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it would get to that point.
Yeah.
I would feel, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty lightheaded right now.
Yeah, or like cranky.
Probably, yeah.
Like, why am I so cranky? It's like, oh, I'm hangry.
Someone asked, do you have any tips on making sure I get all my water in? Should I set alarms throughout the day or surround myself in water bottles or wear a Camelback at my desk while I work?
Hey, you'll probably go more viral if you surround yourself with water bottles all day. But what I found for a lot of people that's helpful is I would get, like, I have a large water bottle. This is 32 ounces. It's much easier to count your water bottles if you don't have as many to count, especially if you're going to do glasses. Forget it. You're never going to reach it. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. I definitely think an alarm is good. And you don't have to go crazy, but I would say if you're somebody who wakes up at 8 o'clock, by 11 o'clock, put an alarm on your phone that you have an hour left to finish your first bottle. So it's giving you a heads up rather than like start your second bottle and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't even finish the first. So I like having an alarm that gives you like an hour window of that's how much time you have left. And then, okay, so then by 12, you need to finish your first bottle. Then let's say 3 o'clock, there's an alarm to get your second bottle in by 4. And then you have the last one by the end of the night. And then what I would do for those who end up waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, sleep is also extremely important. So I don't want it to seem that we're going to reduce our sleep quality because we're waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom because we're too focused on water. So if that is something that happens to you, cut yourself off an hour or two before bed. So if you want to have one more alarm to be like, hey, this is your last moment, because then you have to cut yourself off, I would do that. Another one for some people who use glasses a lot, I have them have a little piece of paper on their fridge. So anytime they fill up their cup, they put a dash on it so they know how many dashes till the end, so they can track it that way. I find those end up being the most helpful. Sometimes you could also get, if you wanted to fill up your total amount for the day in something, so you can visually see that go down and you pour that into whatever you're drinking. And you could even put lines in it. Like if you want to measure it and put lines so you know, and then put the times. I know they sell some water bottles that have the times on there, but you can do that where a quarter, a half, and 3/4 and what time of the day it should be around. That might be a way to visually see it, because you're not going to remember. And especially in the beginning when you don't have those thirst cues, you might not remember. So you have to have it in front of you or have those alarms. But like I said, if you don't use it, you lose it, but it will come back. 4 or 5 days of being consistent with your water. It's difficult at first, but rip it off like a Band-Aid, because the second you get it and you feel that thirst cue, it's really easy to drink it. And not even so much that, but you're going to feel really crummy when you don't have enough. You'll start knowing what does it feel like to be dehydrated, and you're going to feel sluggish and headaches and just So you don't realize the normal that you're in, because your normal's here, but realistically it should be up here. But until you know what that feels like, you don't realize it. Once you realize how great you can feel, your body wants you to stay there. So it'll give you negative feedback when you're below. And that also helps you be more encouraged to drink the water. But those would be my tips to try to remember to drink.
Well, there's plenty. So I hope someone got something from there. I know Soph is still going to struggle.
She struggles forever.
She needs someone to hand feed her some water bottles.
I'm just going to mail her water every week.
Linda said, my daughter had a kidney stone at 20 years old. What food should she stay away from, or food should she be eating less of?
Great question. So this is tough. I can definitely post an oxalate list. It depends on what kind of kidney stone she has. If it was an oxalate calcium kidney stone, then unfortunately, so oxalates are all in plants. So anything that's a plant is going to have them. So if she eats a lot of spinach, that's a huge one. I would definitely start reducing, but water is huge, because water helps drown it out and break it up and flush it out. So drinking plenty of water. Coffee has a high amount, spinach has a high amount. I think a lot of whole grains have a higher amount just because there's more plants in it than the enriched. And dairy is great. So dairy actually prevents calcium absorption. So what happens is when you drink dairy or have dairy with a vegetable or with something that is a plant, whether it's a grain or a fruit or a vegetable, it helps reduce how much you're actually absorbing. So I'll put the list, because there's a ranking of how much they're in some versus what's on the lower list. So you can look there depending on what they're actually eating that they like. But having dairy with it helps. And then drinking plenty of water will also help. Great question.
That kind of leads into our next question. Someone asked, how important is it to drink milk?
So it's not so much milk specifically as the fact that dairy is really, really important. Now, I know there's a lot of different things that are going around about it, and the quality of that is separate. I'm not going to get into that. But in terms of just calcium, so our bones are made of calcium, and it's an electrolyte. So for someone who's an athlete would probably be more familiar with this. If we're dehydrated and low in electrolytes, we don't feel so great, and we might have some heart palpitations or something like that. And so what happens is electrolytes are meant to contract the muscles, mainly your heart, especially your heart. So when you don't have enough, your heart can't pump. Now, the thing about calcium, why I'm even saying this, is it is an electrolyte, but there's so much in our bones. So if we don't have enough in our blood, our body will be like, well, I'll just take it from the bones then. At least I'll make sure I have it. So if you ever get blood work done, your blood calcium level will pretty much always look normal, because your body will make sure there's enough in the blood to make your heart pump. But that's how you can start getting osteoporosis and just weakening of the bones, because it's just sucking it out of your bones the whole time, and you might not realize. Now, it ties in perfectly with what I just said about the oxalates, because you will see that there will be things saying that almond milk has 50% more calcium than regular milk. This is very, very, very misleading. Yes, technically by content, but like I just told you, anything that's a plant has oxalates in them, which prevent calcium absorption. So even though there is more calcium in there, technically, you're absorbing significantly less. While true dairy, whether it's milk or cheese or yogurt or cottage cheese or anything like that, you're absorbing significantly more. And calcium is just so important to make sure that we keep our bones strong and regulate our hormones, especially more for women, because the menstrual cycle definitely is really taxing on our bones as well. And if you really look, like Chinese and Japanese culture, they have a higher chance of osteoporosis because there is no dairy in their cuisine. So it is showing that even though you can get it from plants, the absorbency is just far less. So it really just depends on what you can tolerate. I know that if you are worried about the quality of what's in it, organic definitely is going to be better on that aspect, and it also lasts much longer. So for quarantine purposes, that's helpful. But that's what I would say about drinking milk. It doesn't have to be milk, but just make sure you're getting some sort of version of calcium in, because it is a very important nutrient that we need.
Yeah, I think one thing I know I struggle with, I'm lactose intolerant, so I can take in cheese for whatever reason, but anything else is not good. So I know I have to be extra vigilant on that and make sure that I'm covering my bases and not just relying on plant. Lou Cook, the man, the myth, the legend, he asked, I've been suffering with lower leg cramps in bed. What foods do you suggest to eat to help with this?
Ooh, it's definitely potassium. When you don't have enough potassium, you will definitely cramp. Now, everyone knows the bananas. That's actually third on the list. Second is avocados, and first is sweet potato.
Guacamole.
Mm-hmm. So sweet potatoes, avocados, and bananas are very helpful. That'll give you the potassium that you need to help with the leg cramps.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. You only ever hear of banana.
Yeah, I don't know why it's the most popular, but it's third.
Yeah.
So fun fact.
Soph suggests chicken parm for lower leg cramps. I would fully back that and support that. Soph. We'll get to a couple more here because I don't want to keep you all night. But Tiff wants to know: do you recommend any post-workout drinks or foods?
Ooh, great question. Thanks, Tiff. So everyone always assumes drink a bunch of protein because that helps replenish the muscles. Now, yes, that is true, but what a lot of people don't know is you actually want to replenish all three macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbs. So the best thing to do for that would be, if you wanted to put, if you're drinking milk, 1% milk, because the milk has the carbs in it. The 1% milk gives you the fat. Technically, there's protein in it too, so you don't need the protein powder, but if you want to, you add that in, and that would be a perfect mix. So you really want to be, and this is a 30-minute window. There's a 30-minute window where your body absorbs nutrients at a far faster rate than any other time. So it's kind of this luxury moment to take advantage. So you want to have carb, fat, and protein all together within your food or your drink to have post-workout, because you're replenishing everything you used.
Yeah, and I think you know, for some people, they don't necessarily have access to food right away, whether it's a meal or something like that. So one thing we were always encouraged was even just the chocolate milk has a
Chocolate
pretty
milk is the best one.
decent
And it has
balance.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I mean, for something so everyone gets so complicated, but it's like, nah, just go
Right.
back to the
And
old
hey,
school chocolate milk.
if chocolate milk motivates you to work out, even better. That's a double win. So you don't have to feel bad about it. Please drink your chocolate milk, get a good workout in, and you already did yourself a great service.
Awesome. Well, we'll take one more here from Alex. He left us. He's a fireman now down south. Thank you, Alex. He said, I was told you have to hydrate more if you're consuming more protein than normal, or if you're supplementing with protein. Is this true to help flush out your kidneys?
Well, I think the reason why that's said is because protein does produce a lot of nitrogen and other gases that you don't want to have too much of. It could be helpful, but at the end of the day, you just don't want to overdo protein in general. So it's all about making sure you just have an appropriate amount. So I wouldn't necessarily think that, oh, as long as I drink more water, I can have as much protein as I want. It's still taxing on your kidneys. And what ends up happening is it changes the percentage of what you're consuming of all three of your macronutrients. So I kind of explain, like, you have your cars, your tires, and your brakes. You have a certain amount of each thing to make everything work. So you don't want to necessarily have 4 steering wheels and 1 tire. That doesn't really balance it out. So it's really important to have the balance. So it could, but I don't really think there's a lot to hold on to that, because it's more about just not having too much protein. And as long as you're well hydrated, you should be fine.
Yeah, and Alex actually shared when he was in the academy, they made him tie a piece of string to their Nalgene bottles, and every time you killed the bottle, they had to tie a knot. And if you didn't have enough knots by the end of the day, they got in trouble. I like that. We can't really enforce that around here, but I love that concept.
I love that.
Well, Linz, it's been great. This is our first one. I hope we're going to continue to do this. I really like Mondays because it's the start of a fresh week for everyone. It's kind of, everyone could be great on a Monday, you know? So it's like, let's set them up with
Tuesday.
Yeah, let's set them up with some insight for the rest of their week and carry it through strong. So I hope you had a great time. I had a great time. Thank you for all the questions, everyone. And it was nice to see some faces in here we haven't seen in a while. Hopefully next Monday you guys could tune back in. Make sure you bring your questions for Lindsay. Lindsay's co-founder of Absolute Nutrition and Counseling. They provide one-on-one nutrition counseling, not just throwing you a diet template and telling you to check back in once a week. You know, it's very much educated and instructed counseling, and so many people that come to our gym and that we're friends and family with now see so many benefits from this. So I hope my hope is to just bring Lindsay to you guys and help you see inside her brain, because she has so much knowledge and she relates it so well with all these analogies. Like, I'm a huge analogy person. So when I hear analogies, I'm like, wow, okay, I get it now. And I'll never forget the analogies, you know? So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so everyone. Much. And enjoy the rest of your week. Yep.
Thank you. Just also know I take insurance. I take a lot of major insurances. So this is not something that needs to be out of pocket. I can check your benefits in advance to see how many visits you get. So please don't feel that the quarantine and the financial thing is going to tie you back from being able to reach out to me and me be able to help. So just wanted to throw that tidbit in there. Thank you so much for Mike for having me on here. This was awesome. I'm excited to do it again next week.
Awesome. Yeah. And make sure you give them a follow. It's at Absolute Nutrition.
Absolute Nutrition Counseling.
On Instagram. Yep. Follow them on Instagram, and follow us on Instagram if you don't already. And we'll be back next Monday with more insightful news from Lindsay and hopefully some more good habits she's been able to throw into her quarantine. All right, guys, have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye, guys.